Car collections are obviously the highest form of wishful thinking to many people, and many aspire to own one someday. Now obviously these things can vary in size and of course expense, and a lot of people simply have car collections as another way of flouting their wealth. In many cases they don't even care about cars. But if there's one way of having a car collection and really showing that you love cars, it isn't just about buying the most expensive or rarest cars out there, it's about finding unique and exciting items that personally get you exhilarated. One step above that would be having cars specially made for this collection. This sounds not only incredibly expensive, not only incredibly excessive, but incredibly stupid. I mean, who on earth is going to have all this money and passion to do such a thing? An actor, a politician, a music creator, some sort of CEO? Well, perhaps I'm looking at people like Jay Leno, but today's car collection, which many have dubbed the greatest car collection of all time, belongs to an individual known as the Sultan of Brunei, or Hassan to avoid more distasteful mispronunciations, he will go by simply the Sultan for the rest of the video. The Sultan assumed office in 1967, and apart from Queen Elizabeth II, is the longest currently reigning monarch. Coincidentally, he's also rated as one of the richest individuals in the world, with his wealth stretching far into the billions. And with so much wealth and so much time sat on the throne, one would want to spend some of it. So, without beating around the bush, the car collection. It's obviously going to be quite large with such a wealth, but there's large and then there's 7,000 cars large. Yes, you heard me right, that wasn't a typo of an extra zero. The car collection consists of an estimated 7,000 cars with a worth estimated around a jaw-dropping $5 billion. I don't even know what to say. Numbers like these can't really be visualised, but what can be visualised is some of the little trinkets that make up the collection. And when I say trinkets, I'm referring to the 24 karat variation. Now obviously the collection featured a lot of exotics that were available for the public to buy. Notable inclusions are the likes of Ferraris, Bugattis, McLarens, Jaguars, Porsches, Rolls-Royce, Bentleys. Think of any exotic car manufacturers and you can bet your bottom dollar that the Sultan has an example somewhere. It's argued that the Sultan and his collection kept struggling brands like Rolls-Royce and Aston Martin alive during difficult times in the 90s, injecting millions of dollars into their economies. In terms of specifics, it's reported that the collection houses over 600 Rolls-Royces, 574 Mercedes, 452 Ferraris, 382 Bentleys, 209 BMWs, 179 Jaguars, 134 Koenigseggs, and a comparatively tiny little collection of just 21 Lamborghinis. Step up your game, bro. Now obviously with so many cars you aren't going to be able to get connected to or even use all of them. For example, the likes of this pristine 1993 Jaguar XJ220, this BMW Nazca M12 and his Sasetta V16T all proudly display their speedometers at 0. This therefore brings up the debate of just because you have the money, is it right that you buy these wondrous machines if you're never ever going to experience them? I'm leaning on the side of no. Some specifics of the more outlandishly rare cars he owned included 3 of the 5 total McLaren F1 LMs, 2 Mercedes CLK GTRs, a Ferrari F40 LM, numerous Bugatti EB110s, one of which looked like this, and an insane number of Ferrari Enzos. That's just some of them. But we've all seen these cars before. Let's get into some specifics. The cars that the Sultan had built specially for his collection, and there are a lot. Let's swing back round to the Jaguar XJ220. It is said that 20 of these cars were exported to Brunei in total. 18 were base models, 1 was a Le Mans class racer, but the final one was a special one-off, with unique bodywork by the one and only Pininfarina, fittingly named the XJ220 Pininfarina Special. It featured numerous exterior and interior upgrades, as well as mechanical upgrades like a Williams F1 paddle shift gearbox, improved cooling, power steering, and improved electrics. And honestly, this thing looks mean, in a good way. The pop-ups have been replaced with fixed headlights in an aggressive cat-like appearance. There were larger intakes, a tapered cockpit, and a completely reworked rear spoiler and rear headlight setup. Sure, the base XJ220 looks pretty good already, but personally I think the Pininfarina came along and blew it out of the water. Only one example was ever built, delivered to the collection in 1995. The Ferrari FX is a motor that came about entirely because of the collection. The Sultan gifted his nephew a $1 billion birthday present for his 18th birthday, and with this money the nephew wanted to buy a semi-automatic Ferrari. However, at the time, this simply didn't exist. Luckily, the lad had, $1 billion floating around, so Ferrari was therefore commissioned by him to design and build this car specially. 7 examples of the FX were completed in 1995, 6 of which were delivered to the collection. The 7th was snapped up prior to delivery and now sits on display at the Marconi Museum in California. It is said to feature the flat 12 from the Testarossa, making 440 horsepower. Another unique Ferrari would be the F50 Bolide. Obviously not a completely unique one-off, largely being a base F50, but it did feature unique bodywork and styling, and only one was ever built. And I don't know about you, but I kind of get a bit of a Ferrari Enzo vibe here. Maybe some early DNA of the design was beginning to show through. But let's switch tracks to SUVs, and when I say Bentley SUV, you likely picture the Bentayga launched in 2015. Well, what if I was to tell you that another Bentley SUV was designed and built almost 20 years prior? In 1996, the Sultan commissioned the struggling Bentley to design him 6 identical SUVs. What resulted was the surprisingly good-looking Dominator, with each one supposedly being worth $4.6 million each, or around $8 million in today's money. It is said that a lot of the Dominator is actually borrowed from the much more well-known Range Rover and was fitted with either Land Rover's 3.9 litre V8 or Bentley's own 6.7 litre V8, but no one can be sure. Each example featured a different colour, the undeniable outcast being this bright yellow one with a garish red interior, truly embodying tiny tykes, or as many have come to call it, the McDonald's spec. Supposedly it was coloured this way to represent the flag of Brunei, but I think the Sultan was just craving some McNuggets. It is also said that Bentley had some of these Dominators shipped back to the UK in order to help them come up with initial plans for their first production SUV, which would later go on to be named, yes, the Bentayga. The Dominator has always fascinated me. I think it is genuinely such a cool looking car, and this is coming from a guy who doesn't really care about SUVs. The Sultan also liked to dip his toes into the world of concept cars, case in point being the BMW Nazca M12 concept. Originally, BMW constructed this one-off concept in 1991 and was the debut creation of Fabrizio Giugiaro, son of legendary Ital designer founder Giorgetto Giugiaro. It was regularly touted as the true successor to the BMW M1 from a decade earlier. Unfortunately, this 300 horsepower 12-cylinder beast never made it to production. However, when the Sultan laid eyes on it, he immediately commissioned BMW to build him an identical version of his own. And being the Sultan, he got what he desired. The Sultan also purchased himself not one, but 2 models of the strangely beautiful Ferrari Mythos concept. Like the Nazca M12, the Mythos was a concept from Ferrari that was never meant to go into production. It was never the fastest Ferrari in the world, but when you have a stallion as rare and singular and most importantly as beautiful as this thing, it's not really a worry. Staying on course with the Ferraris, as the collection had quite a few, the Sultan's brother, Prince Geoffrey, continued the family tradition of buying cars in groups of 6 with the quite breathtaking Ferrari 456 GT Venice. Now, of course, the regular 456 is not the rarest car in the world, being produced for 9 years between 1992 and 2003. However, only 7 of the Venice were ever produced, 6 of which went to Brunei and the other brother went to a private car collector in the UK. Probably not the most tasteful addition to a Grand Tourer ever, but I see this and I can't help seeing a more elegant Italian version of the WRX estate. However, all of this has a bit of a sour ending. Now, I'm not commenting on the politics or anything like that here, but the Sultan's excessive car collection ended up stirring up a little bit of controversy. Not only did the huge amounts of spending cause a reported financial crisis for the royal family, but it also caused a lot of soured views on the family itself. In the end, it was decided that this fantastical collection was to be left abandoned. The garage where a large part of the collection was housed had its aircon shut off in 2000, meaning these pristine and in many cases never driven supercars are sat in a hole somewhere, literally rotting. Sure, quite a few have been recovered and are slowly being auctioned off, but for a lot of these fantastical machines, their time has come and gone, and I think that's really sad. Obviously, the Sultan is still in charge of a large collection, with him being the father to many a great modern supercars, but I think it's seeing these ultra rare Grand Tours and supercars from the past century that just ignites something inside me, and I think I'm gonna call it jealousy. Thank you so much for watching, with a very special thanks to Ben Wright and Bryn Palmer, who are very generously donating at the highest tier on my Patreon. Just £1 a month is an amazing help, and I also have a Discord server and an Instagram page, links are in the description below. Again, thank you for watching and take care.